A multi-dimension data table is created when 3 or more dimensions have an expansion function applied to them, or if any number of dimensions are expanded and the data type is set to either cell text or line item detail in the Instructions tab. In this example report, we'll set the account dimension to Descendants and choose a new top account from the Favorites panel. In order to restrict the volume of data that's extracted, only one dimension can be set to Descendants, but there are no limit on the other expansion functions. The second dimension, in this example custom 2, I'm going to set to expand to base members. This means that for every single account underneath net assets, we'll get every single base custom 2 member. The current settings of Descendants and base members would create a quite large and inefficient 2-dimension table. So we want to set a third dimension to ensure that the data is retrieved into a multi-dimension table. So I'm going to choose to retrieve this data for a selection of periods by checking a few period members. And then for the entity dimension, I'll choose the Favorites option, which pre-selects my previously selected favorites, which I can easily modify. And now, because more than 2 of the dimensions have been given an expansion function, as indicated by a non-blue icon, when I click the Get Data button, the data will be retrieved into a multi-dimension data table. So the data table now displays every single point of view that has data based on the selection in the data table form. The account column displays all the descendant members of the selected account NA, and the custom 2 members displays all the base members of the top C2 member. The period and entity columns display their selected members, and the other custom dimensions just display the single member label. The data is displayed in both entity currency and also in a single target translated currency, and the target currency is based on the entity's currency of the entity member before any selections were made. The exchange rate column is calculated and is the effective exchange rate and not necessarily the exchange rate loaded into HFM. The advantage of the multi-dimension data table is that once you've downloaded your data subset, it's very easy to use Excel functionality to sort and filter the data, because now all the data is stored in Excel and there's no need to connect to HFM when filtering the data. Initially, the data table only displays the member labels, but if you wish to add the descriptions to the dimensions that have been expanded, selecting the Add Descriptions button will add extra columns to the data table that display the member descriptions. And these description columns are particularly useful if you wish to add a pivot table to this data table. Using Excel pivot tables is another useful way of analyzing the data in the data table. For example, we can now use it to nest the 2 expanded dimensions by dragging both expanded dimensions into the row panel. We now have a report that displays only the custom 2 members that have data for each of the accounts. And pivot tables also allow us to filter the data to present the data any way we wish. And again, because we're working with a subset of data that has been downloaded from HFM, subsequent updates to the reports in Excel are almost immediate. So the combination of multi-dimension data tables and Excel pivot tables makes for a very powerful and flexible reporting tool. They are particularly good at analyzing large, sparsely populated dimensions because they automatically suppress blank rows. We'll look now at some other multi-dimension data table functionality. In other videos, you may have seen the Merlin Excel right-click function to drill to all base data. And that function creates a multi-dimension data table. And by using the special saved POV called all base, which sets the expansion function for all hierarchical dimensions to base, we can create the data table that displays all the base data that rolls up to a selected point of view. And instead of using the active cells point of view, we can use the form to set the top point of view. And if there are some dimensions that we know we don't need to get the base members for, they can be set to the member function, which doesn't do any expansion and just returns the selected member. Removing unnecessary expansions will make the report smaller and quicker to run. And once the point of view has been defined, select the Get Data button. And the multi-dimension data table is added to a new worksheet.